there's an African-American attitude that does not accept the legitimacy of the term Black Indians. All people of African heritage are African. So that the the Afrocentric position argues that Black Indians are not Indians, but are in fact African people. So individuals of dual heritage are often caught between white stereotypes about pure blood, what Indians should look like, and on the other side is the Afrocentric position that says that you are not Indian, you are Africans pretending to be something you are not. And in several instances this is difficult for individuals. I mean, in many different ways it places people in positions where they have to negotiate their identity, caught between two extremes, two groups that deny them legitimacy and a place within either community, either the African American community or the Native American community.
Black History Month you find
Ridiculous.
why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No,
Well-
come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
No,
I don't.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism until...
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man.
What do you think, Morgan? Is this political correctness gone too far?
Yeah. I mean, we have a tendency to do that anyway. I mean, you get politically correct. Stuff happens that you don't want to happen. I all of a sudden became an African. Political correctness, African American. I'm not African. An American. I'm not African. An American. I'm not African.
Hawa, Shalom, familia, ampitu washte. Alright, so I just want to pick up where we left off in the last video, in the last part 5. We were talking about how, we have the habitat and the environment. Here in the Americas, we have the tropics, or the burning zones, as you're going to see. They call it these burning tropical zones, where there would be people of color or dark-skinned people, or as you know them as so-called Negroes or blacks. All right, we assume, because we've been taught, that all so-called Negro people or people of dark skin come out of Africa, and that's not true. So again, in America we have people, again, with skin colors or skin tones up to the darkest hues, as you can see in this chart. You see some in South America, Peru and Brazil, Guyana, Suriname, exactly what the black tribes are described in these anthropological books. Alright, so not just Africa. So what I'm trying to say is, we really got to dodge our own hijacks. Forget what you've been told. Forget about those theories you've been told, and stop holding in all that pride. I know, Africans are so-called black too, and yes, but not only did so-called Negro people live in Africa. They were all over the world, all over the plane. All right. So you have been seeing throughout, the last part, and you're going to see throughout this part, that a lot of the times they're going to mention the word African mixed with Native, or African American / Cherokee. But, that's just a hijack. If you really go into the history, you would see there's no African ancestry. So I wanted to read a couple examples of what others have to say about this, including Benjamin Franklin. So the first example I want to show you is from this book. It's called The Races of Men. This book is written by Robert Knox, MD, lecturer on anatomy and corresponding member of the National Academy of Medicine of France, written in 1850. Part of a lot of royal societies, and he's an expert in anatomy and studied under prestige and specialist in anatomy. And he wrote this book here. He went against the evolution, the Darwinism, evolution, the theory, right? So obviously you don't probably know about him, but he says here regarding a chapter in his book which is called the Dark Races. So he's talking about the dark-skinned people of the earth, right, of the plane. So he's talking about that obviously there's dark races in Africa, and but let's pick up where he says here. It says, after some 4,000 years of historic period, all we have is a chronology full of errors. All right, a chronology full of errors. Future video chronology that we have today is false, is fraudulent, is not real. We're going by a false chronology. And as he's saying here, it's full of errors and falsehood, unintelligible, incomprehensible. We find the dark races still on the earth. Of their ancient history, absolutely nothing is known, nor does it matter in what region of the globe we first view them. They are confined to no particular zone, meaning they don't only exist in Africa. Again, they are confined to no particular zone, but spread as it were from pole to pole. Everywhere, the whole plain was dark melanated peoples. All right, the whole plain, not just Africa. From the Arctic to the Antarctic Circle. If the Lapps be a dark race, then the dark races exist in Europe as a race. All right, so the first Europeans were dark. Asia abounds with them. Also in Asia, the original Asians were so-called Negroes too. Africa has always been considered their stronghold. All right, right? That's what we've been taught. And unquestionably, from the Mediterranean shores to Cape Le Agulhas, the thick-lipped as Copt or Wasserman, of all shades but the fair prevails throughout. The fair prevails throughout. But it is in America. Now here we go, listen up. But it is in America, the last discovered by the civilized European, where we find the stronghold of the colored race. Again, in America is where we find the stronghold of the colored race, copper-colored race, right? From the land of fire that's down over in the tip of South America to the icebound polar sea up in the Arctic, right? So it's saying from all the way down to the bottom to the top, nature had darkened every race unmistakably. So the nature of this place, the habitat, the environment creates melanated people and darkened every race unmistakably. Nor had the Eskimos or circumpolar races escaped the coloration. They were also colored, the originals, like their brethren in Asia, just like their brethren, the original Asians who were also Negro, so it makes them also Negro. From the book A Voyage to Senegal, or Historical, Philosophical, and Political Memoirs, relative to the discoveries, establishments, and commerce of Europeans in the Atlantic Ocean, from Cape Blanco to the river of Sierra Leone. This was written in 1806 by J.P.L. Durant, formerly governor of Isle of St. Louis. As here in this book it says, I shall add another reflection of public utility. The blacks are a kind of man destined by nature to inhabit Africa and America. Again, the blacks, so-called blacks, right? They call you black, a crayon color, but we know what they mean. Is a kind of man destined by nature to inhabit Africa and America, not just Africa, Africa and America. She has created them for burning regions. That is what happens in America as well. Burning regions. Let us therefore take care not to oppose her views or overthrow the barriers which she has established, but let us preserve their races in their natural purity and not permit the Negroes to inhabit Europe. This mixture of black and white is dangerous to our population, and in time it may change, corrupt, and even destroy it. All right, so you hear their racist views. They're like, all right, let's keep them where they belong, in Africa and America. They're saying, let's keep these Negroes or blacks in these burning regions in Africa and America. All right. So we're going to read something very similar here in this book. It's called Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind, of Peopling of Countries by Benjamin Franklin, made in Boston back in 1755, reprinted in 1918. Be an extra number 63 of the Magazine of History with notes and queries. Now it says here in this book what Benjamin Franklin basically says, right? This is in his own words. So it says, number 24, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tawny, right? Tawny. Remember that word they call the Indians tawny, all right? So here you go. Look, they're referring to Africans as tawny. Asia is chiefly tawny, all right? So black, right? America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. So America also is black or tawny, wholly so, wholly. This is Benjamin Franklin telling you, right? And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call swarthy complexion, or dark or black, dark complexion, black. Telling you the original Europeans are dark. Benjamin Franklin is telling you right now. As are the Germans also. The Saxons only accepted who, with the English, make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. And we know the Saxons, they seem to be some of those 10 tribes of Slavic, barbaric white tribes that came and invaded and drove away the darker skinned Europeans. So he's correlating with that, saying that it seems that the Saxons and English, according to what he views as English, as the only white people on the face of the earth. I could wish their numbers were increased. He says he wished there was more white people. And while we are, as I may call it, scoring our planet by clearing America of woods, so they're cutting down the trees, right? Your trees they cut down. He's saying scoring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light, right? Brighter, they mean by more white people, to the eyes of inhabitants in Mars or Venus. Now he's going celestial. See, he's leaving. He can't go up above the firmament, but he's always taking you to the celestial beings, right? Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people? You hear what he's saying? So why are we going to make America dark? He wants more white people. Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America? So he's saying, why would we bring Africans into America if it's already wholly so black or tawny or filled with people who are Negro? Why? So why he's saying, why would they bring more people from Africa who are also black or tawny, according to them, right? By planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies of increasing the lovely white and red. But perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind of partiality is natural to mankind. So you hear how racist Benjamin Franklin was, first of all, but he's being honest and he's telling you that they are the minority, the white people, and the whole planet was filled with copper-colored or so-called tawny or black people, right? In America, wholly so, America as well. So it says here, Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forth, chapter 7, says explicit definitions of the term mulatto. English writers began using the term mulatto or mulatto in the 1590s. The term was borrowed from Spanish and usually referred to persons met with in the Caribbean or South America. So usually, again, this was referred to persons met with in the Caribbean or South America. So these were what the Spanish were calling the Indians. Early Spanish definitions of the term make it highly probable, indeed virtually certain, that such persons were usually half African and half American. John Micheau, as already noted, defined mulatto in 1599, 1617, and later as a person who was the child of a Moro or black Moor and one from another nation. So a mulatto in these times was somebody who was mixed with a black Moor and somebody from another nation. They're not saying somebody who's white. It could be any other person from any other nation, not just a white European or Caucasian nation, right? This extremely accurate and timely definition reflected Spanish usage very well. Now let us review other early English dictionaries. John Florio's 1611 does not include mulatto in his dictionary, but has mulatto, a little or young mule, and mulo, a horse mule, also a bastard or misbegotten. Henry Cockerham, 1623, does not have mulatto, but has a black Moor, Ethiop. Thomas Blount, 1656, continues the Minshew definition, mulatto, spawn, the son of Blackmore and a man of another nation, or contra one that is of a mongrel complexion, a mulatto is a great mule. Edward Phillips, 1658, states mulatto, one whose father is a black Moor and his mother of another nation or contrarily. But in 1702, John Kersey broadens the scope of the concept. A mulatto, the son of a Negro or an Indian woman and of a man of another nation, or if of a Negro and a woman of another country. It should be noted that this nicely coincides with Virginia legal definitions of 1705 that a European American mixed blood is a mulatto and would seem to reflect some tendencies and usage. So they're saying, see, with no African mixture, like somebody who's a European, and that could even be a black nobility European. There was a lot of black Moors living in Europe, and they were coming over here during this time of discovery, conquest, and exploration, invasion, right? But they were mixing with Indians, and they would be considered mulatto. They're not. There's no African in there, in between yet. So that the word mulatto, what they're trying to tell you is that it doesn't mean that they were coming from Africa or that it's from a Negro from Africa. Again, the history and civil and commercial of the British colonies in the West Indies in 2 volumes. Again, this is volume 1. It says here by Brian Edwards of the island of Jamaica. All right. On page 35 of this book, in regards to the Caraibes or Charaibes as they call them here, right? They spell it right here with a Charaibes. Down in the bottom, it says, they painted their faces and bodies with ornato so extravagantly that it was with difficulty their natural complexion, which was nearly that of a Spanish olive. A Spanish olive? Arbequina is a cultivar of olives, right? The fruit is highly aromatic, small, symmetrical, and dark brown. Again, dark brown. This is an olive, right? Origin, Spain. So a Spanish olive. All right. So most people think olives look greenish and stuff, but I want to show you what most Spanish olives look like. And I want to show you that there's different varieties. You can take a look. All right. This is a Spanish olive. So what Spanish olive are we talking about when they're saying that the natural complexion of the Caribs is Spanish olive? Because Spanish olive comes in dark. The black Caribs, again, the black Caribs, however, as might have been expected, immediately joined the enemy. And there is no doubt that the terror which seized the British inhabitants from an apprehension that those people would proceed to the most bloody.
When I would go to the various establishments, there was a color line there. And one place that I went to, it was a dance, and we went in there, and there was a Indian girl who was at the desk. And she said, I'm sorry you can't come in because you're not white. And I said, oh, I know that. I'm Narragansett. And she said, what's Narragansett? And I said, a Narragansett Indian from Rhode Island. And she said, there is no such thing.
Throughout the 19th century, you get every few years a notice of the last full-blooded Narragansett has died. And the last Indian dies and dies and dies.
Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes says here, it is clear from a decision of 1850 that persons of American descent, in order to escape from the status of mulatto or colored person, had to prove that they were of free Indian descent, unmixed with African blood. That's what that means. The case is as follows. Amelia Marchant was challenged as a witness on the grounds that she was a person of color. So basically, they were saying she was a Negro or a black person, not an Indian. They were trying to classify her and tag her as a person of color. When she was like, "No, I'm Indian. Stop calling me a person of color. I am from a tribe. I have a tribal name." It was argued on her behalf that her grandparents were free Indians and also that her father, James Mitchell, was a Portuguese. So her father was a Portuguese? So why are they saying she's a person of color? And I'm trying to tell you, if you saw my other videos, there was a lot of so-called, Europeans that were, dark skin or what you would call Moor, right, or mulatto, right, or a lighter skin, Negro. But they weren't all white Europeans that were coming and enslaving, and mixing with the Indians. As in this case, this was more likely a darker skinned European, this James Mitchell, if he was Portuguese. All right. Opponents said that Mitchell had associated with colored persons and was so considered. The verdict was in Merchant's favor. That is, that she was of free Indian ancestry and that she had no African blood, no African blood, and they were trying to call her a colored, right? Colored. They were trying to call her colored, and she had no African blood. The Supreme Court reviewed the case and reversed the verdict in spite of the fact that Mitchells had paid no capitation tax charged to free colored people, and that James Mitchell had apparently married a white woman. The grounds for reversal were in part that many Indians had been enslaved and that the Mitchells came under the status of colored persons, apparently because they could not prove descent from free Indians in amity with South Carolina. If nothing else, this 1850 case, all right, this one specific case he's telling you, Jack Forbes, illustrates that persons of American blood or American Indians, right, you could still be considered to be mulatto or colored persons in South Carolina, especially if a suspicion of African ancestry existed. So if you look a little bit Negro, or what they would consider Negro-ish or Negroid, right? Or what they would consider an African, right? They would classify you mulatto or colored, and you would have to prove that you're Indian, even though you've already known that for thousands of years and hundreds of years with your family. In Georgia, which usually followed the lead of South Carolina, a wealthy Spanish Floridian of alleged mixed African and American ancestry was held to be a mulatto by a lower court. The higher court in 1856 reversed this decision and held him to be a white man. So you hear this? See how they're changing people's race, and court changing race? Does that make sense? You see how they're just playing with these tags? And all your ancestors' birth certificates, census records, and death certificates. I know it's all over your families. I know. I've seen the records. All right. All right. So I just want to show you one clear example here. One real example to bring you closer to home here, so you can have a foundation here of what I'm talking about when we're talking about these classifications and your ancestors and these records, right? So much love to Kiowa, who sent me his ancestors' records here, and we were able to put this all together to make sure it was him, and so we can see the different classifications that his ancestor went through. So the first one would be here from the census of 1880, right? This is from 1880, and the person's name is Guy Spalding, right? Let me just get a little closer. This is from line 13, right? And it says that he is, well, let's go to the classifications first. It says that W means white, B means black, MU means mulatto, C means Chinese, and I Indian, right? And then it talks about his age and the sex, right? So Guy Spalding, again, he's listed as MU, a mulatto, right? We just went over mulatto, right? So we got to dodge the hijack. Most likely he's an Indian, an American Indian. Says he's 30 years old here. So in 1880, minus 30 would be 1850. If he's almost, 31, then it would be 1849. So between 1849 and 1850, he was born. All right, remember that. Now, the interesting thing about here, Kiowa told me to look for as well, is that his family, You can see, you'll see the name like Delphia, Willie, Henry, Penny. You'll see Delphia a lot. They're listed as B or black. He's the only one in his family listed as mulatto. Why is everybody else listed as black? So that would make him black too, right? Or that will make them mulatto too, right? All right. So I mean, not necessarily, I know, but you'll see what I'm talking about. So again, 1880 census, he is listed as mulatto. Now let's go on. Now this is the census record. Let me back up of 1900. The 12th census of the United States says here, June 1900, and again they have the same kind of classifications. Um, it says here color, race, and B would be black again. So let's go down to Mr. Spalding again, 1900, line 83. Guy Spalding, head of the house, listed as B. So he went from mulatto, now he's B or black, right? Age 51, um, and birth year 1849. Like we said, he would be born in 1849 or 1850. So we are talking about the same person. And now he's listed as black in 1900. 20 years later, you will see his family again here, and they're also listed as black. You'll see the recurring name of Mitchell, right? These are all from North Carolina. They're all listed as black. Mitchell and all these families, Shipman. All right. Now, let's move on. So now we got the census of, let me see, so it says the 15th census of the United States, 1930, 30 years later. Again, place of birth, it tells you about the father and mother, the classifications, the age, the color, all that, right? Sex. All right. So we're going to go look for Guy Spalding. Again, here he is, line 57. Let me close in. Line 57. Guy Spalding, head of the household. Again, here goes Delphia, his wife, and other people in his family. It says that he is male, and then you can see a scribble where it says race or color. It's hard to tell what it says. IN, is that IN Indian or mulatto? MU, what is that? What does that mean? IN, what is this, right? But let's keep going. So he's Guy Spalding again, head of the household. Says he would be 82 years old here. All right, so it does match with the person we've been following. Now look at this, his place of birth, right? Now look at this, place of birth. It says that he is from North Carolina, but that his father and mother are full-blooded Cherokee. Now all of a sudden, they're listing his father and mother as full-blooded Cherokee. What does that make Mr. Guy Spalding? If his parents are full-blooded Cherokees, that would make him a full-blooded Cherokee as well. Not a black or a mulatto, because mulatto, they were using it again. We already read it in Africans and Native Americans that it means almost like a mixture, a mongrel, whatever they saw, whenever they saw people of different nations mixing. In this case, his parents are full-blooded Cherokee, so he is not a mulatto in their definition at that time, and he is not black. He is color, copper color, and they tagged him as black, right? You're not a crayon color. So 1930, so let's go over it again. 1880, mulatto, 1900, black, and then now 1930, full-blooded Cherokee parents. That makes him a full-blooded Cherokee. And you see the scribble in the color, all right? Now look at this as well. I want to back up a little bit. Now, after his family, Guy Spalding's family, his Leora, his daughter says Mitchell. Remember Mitchell, another common name around this area. And you can see there's scribbles on their color. Who knows what that means? But also you can see that right when they get to the Mitchell family, W. Mitchell, again, there's a scribble right where it would say full-blooded Cherokee or North Carolina. You can see that it said something else before. And I can see, let's close in, I can see the exact same B, full blood, and I can see that it said full blood Cherokee before, and they just started switching it to North Carolina from there on. All right, you see how slick they are? All right, now I just want to show you one more thing. All right, so this is Mr. Spalding's death certificate. Now I just want to show you, this is from 1936. It says he would be 86. So in 1936 minus 86, That would bring us to 1850. Again, he could almost be turning 87. So again, that would mean that he was born in 1849, and we are talking about the same person. And it says here that sex male, color or race Negro, wife Delphia Spalding. So we are talking about the same person, and I want you to see how real this is, how this one example, this one person went through so many classifications through his life in these census records, so-called census records, right? How they tagged him mulatto, black, then he's full-blooded Cherokee, now he died a Negro. You see, he died a Negro. And how common is this? Does this sound familiar in your family? So I just want you to have a foundation. That's why I'm showing you this. Thank you, Kiowa, for sending this record so we can share it with the whole tribe, all the people out here tuning in right now. Appreciate that, bro. All right. Census and other extra-legal definitions. Colonial tax rolls seldom give racial characteristics, but there are exceptions which will be reviewed when pertinent. In Virginia, many early tax rolls are missing. However, one can use fairly continuous records from 1783 onward. There seems to be a common trend in these documents, as reflected by the rolls of Charles City County. From 1783 to the early 1800s, no race is given for the free persons. No race. Right, from all those years. All are classified for tax purposes as whiteable. What does that mean? You hear what they're doing? From 1809 to 1812, free Negro is placed after the names of some free persons, but mixed bloods are still treated as white. Beginning 1813, however, the word mulatto appears beside mixed people's name, along with free Negro for others. Persons who can be identified as Chickahominy Indians, right? Chickahominy Indians, right? We know what they look like. Or ancestors of the present day Chickahominy are uniformly classified as mulattoes. So if these people are identified as Chickahominy Indians, or the original, right, I believe Cherokee, people that lived in the Cherokee area, right, are being classified as mulattoes. Why? If they're Indians. A similar trend occurs in King William, King and Queen, Caroline, and Essex counties, except the Indians living on the two small reservations in King William, Pamunkey and Mataponi, generally do not appear on tax rolls, since their land was not taxable. On the other hand, relatives of the reservation Indians having taxable property or living off reservation normally are classified as mulatto or free colored. Again, Indians, right? American natives, American indigenous people, American tribal people who are living off the reservation, who have property that is taxable according to the corporation, right? They're classified just because they're on the other side of the fence again and have off reservation property that can be taxable. They were classified as mulatto or free colored, but they're Indians. Free colored, colored. What happened in the 60s? Colored, bathroom for colored people only, right? Fountain drink, colored people only. This and that, colored people only. Who were they talking about? All right, so they're classifying Indians as colored. You see the trend, right? In the other counties, Indians are classified as above, but also in several cases as FN or free Negro. Again, in other counties, Indians are classified as above, but also in several cases as FN. So when you see your ancestors and you see a classification of FN, that's free Negro. They're telling you in all these census records, it's all the proof. They're classifying Indians as free Negro. Again, we get this from different sources and we get the actual census. We've already seen that. It is very rare to see a person classified as Indian in pre-Civil War Virginia records, and never in the above counties where the bulk of Indians were then concentrated. A similar situation exists in relation to early United States records. The first census, 1790, forced the local enumerator to place all free persons in two categories: white or all other free persons, except Indians not taxed. Most families known to be of Indian extraction in Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and elsewhere, Virginia is missing, were placed in the all other free persons category. You hear that? Indians, they were placed in all other free persons. Why are they classifying you? Does that mean that they were slaves too? They were enslaving Indians alongside the so-called Negro in the same field, working next to each other. How come we don't see images of the so-called what we think of a Native American today in slave fields back in the days, right? Because that didn't exist back in the day. Because these so-called Indians were you, right? So it was you next to each other, next to another tribal so-called Negro from another part of America. You both were enslaved and ended up in the same plantation. They consider you maybe Indian, mulatto. They'll consider the other guy black or Negro, right? That's how they're tagging you, but you guys were the same tribal aboriginal people. As again, it says here occasionally, however, the enumerator also wrote in their special racial status. Thus, we find in South Carolina, Jordan Shavers of Chera classified as mulatto, right, an Indian, and Hannah Chavis of Edgefield classified as mulatto, another Indian. The Chavers and Chavis name is widely associated with Indian communities in both North and South Carolina. And again, we're going to see that with the Attucks or Crispus Attucks. Attucks was an Indian surname as well in New England. The 1800, 1810, 1820, and 1830 census are the free person of color category for most non-whites, including Indians, person of color. Thus, the native families of Robeson County, North Carolina, and all Virginia counties are always classified as colored persons. Always classified. The native families, again, were classified as colored persons in the 1800, 1810, 1820, and 1830 census of the United States Corporation. Native families classified as colored persons. Carter Woodson, the free Negro heads of families in the United States in 1830, being an indexing of the free colored population, includes many thousands of Indians. Again, look it up. This is written by Carter Woodson, right? It says it's called the Free Negro Heads of Families in the United States in 1830. Again, being an indexing of the free colored population includes many thousands of Indians. All right. So look at all your ancestry records. What does it say? Does it say colored? Does it say mulatto? For example, the entire Cherokee Indian population of Carroll County, Georgia, was included as colored persons. The entire Cherokee Indian population was included as colored persons with names such as Rattlesnake, a.k.a. Wata, Tanekulehe, Wasota, Kicha, Widow, Swimmer, Pumpkin Pal, Charles Band, and so on. One also finds people like Stephen Jumper in Rockingham County, North Carolina, Charles Moose in the same county, and Indian Bill of Westchester County, New York, classified as people of color. And these are all American natives, along with the general Indian population in county after county. Again, over and over, and there's so much evidence there. In 1834, a special census was taken of the Choctaw Indian people. In it, we find the following revealing entries. Again, pay attention. It says, Jacob O'Rare, a mulatto, half Indian, half Negro. James Blue, a Negro, Indian man, has an Indian wife. William Lightfoot, a mulatto, half Indian and half Negro. Jim Tom, half-breed Negro, has an Indian wife. Jacob Daniel has a half Indian and half Negro for a wife.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even kneeling to that flag, like, I have no African descendant in my blood. I'm a Native American. So, literally, I'm a Cherokee, I'm a Blackfoot, I'm a Red-tailed Indian. That's what's in my blood. And the other is mixed with European. And for somebody to say and tell me not to kneel, you crazy. Like, y'all crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people in America is indigenous people. You're not from Africa. But that's a whole nother conversation. Like, that's crazy, man. For you to tell somebody, like, yo, stand up to this flag. Nigga, you know what this flag did to us? That's like he's like, yo, accept crack in your neighborhood. Like, what, nigga, you know what this crack did to our neighborhood? Like, how could you accept that? That's crazy. And it's nothing I could say but get chastised. So it's crazy. For me to even say it's crazy, bro. It's not right.
In the 1840 U.S. Census, the free colored category continues to be used for most non-whites. In 1850 U.S. Census enumerators were instructed in enumerating colored persons to write B or M in the space on the schedule. Again, B will be for black and M for mulatto. The B presumably stood for black, oh here we go, and the M for mulatto, although mixed seems to be the most correct modern rendering. In both 1850 and 1860, these racial terms were not defined by these census officials. In Virginia, one finds that all the Indians, again, all the Indians of the central Tidewater counties were classified as M. So if M means mixed, why are they saying Indians are mixed? They're saying all the Indians are mixed. There's no pure blood Indian in this county. That's what in the Tidewater counties. That's what they're saying. If M means mixed. So no, they're just classifying them as mulatto. All right, and you know, this is proof to you so you can see. So if we really start investigating, we're gonna see that everybody's family at one point or another might have Indian and might be have classified as a colored or mulatto without having any African ancestry in it. All right, so it continues saying that this M, including the residents of the Pamunkey and Mataponi reservations, with a key exceptions in King Williams County where one or two were classified as B. The B should be placed in context, since early Virginia tax rolls, such as those of the 1780s, divided all titleable persons between white souls and black souls. The term black or B is therefore open to various interpretations. The same pattern appears in Norfolk County, Virginia, where many members of the Nansemond Indian group living near Portsmouth were classified as M. This is especially significant since the Nansemonds were categorized as I for Indian on an 1860 local tax roll. So you see they're telling you that at one point they're classifying these people as M, mulatto or mixed, according to their definition, right? And then in another case, in their 1860 local tax roll, they're classified as I, as Indian. At various dates, certificates were apparently issued to Nansemond Indian peoples, such as the following: William Bass, the bearer, tall, swarthy, that means dark skin, dark eyes, is of English and Indian descent, with no admixture of Negro blood. So this swarthy, English and Indian descent has no African, is what they're saying when they say no Negro blood. Numbered as a Nansemond by his own choosing. This was in 1742. But in the following century, many Nansemonds were harassed as mulattoes and listed in the 1850 census with M after their names. Nonetheless, a local county court ruled in 1833, listen to this, that they were not free Negroes or mulattoes, but are of Indian descent. So again, a lot of these records have free Negroes, and they're just talking about people who are of Indian descent. In this case, the court ruled it that they were not Negroes or mulattoes. Look it up. Here we have a clear indication that some whites were still using the term mulatto for people with no African ancestry, and they're still doing that to you today. Even in the 19th century, while the judiciary was holding to the letter of Virginia's 1785 law requiring African ancestry. You hear that? All in all, some 37% of the free people of color in 1850 were classified as M, while only about 1/12 of the slaves were so categorized. It seems clear that a good many of free people classed as M were in fact Indians or of Indian descent. Again, it seems clear that a good many of the free people classed as M were in fact Indians or of Indian descent.
I would say some Native people have felt periodically as the necessity of denying Africanness. But that necessity has been created by a steady stream of white originating argument about claiming that you cannot be Indian if you are also black. Initially, it was not Native people who were making that argument. Whites made that argument in the process of disinheriting Native people in various kinds of ways. And some Native people have had to feel they have had to echo those arguments to achieve any kind of regaining of their birthright.
I guess the way it works is people are so used to seeing what is depicted as an Indian within the movies, the old movies and things. So if you don't look that way, they don't expect you to be Indian. They think you're either black or Hispanic or something else. But most people don't perceive you as an Indian if you don't look like that poster type Indian that they have on TV.
A similar situation exists in relation to other prominent Indian families. The Sampson family contributed a great many students to the Indian College at William and Mary. Thomas 1784, John 1764, George 1769, 1775, Reuben 1775, and Edmund in 1776. An 1812 petition of the Pamunkey tribe lists John William and Henry Sampson as among the headmen and chiefs. It would appear that during the period many Sampsons left to settle elsewhere, where they were in 1810 and later classified as free people of color. So these same Sampson family that are Indians, right? When they would move somewhere else, they would be considered or classified as free people of color, colored people, right? The 1850 census for King William County classifies all the Sampsons, all on the Pamunkey Reservation, as mulattoes. They're calling these Indians mulattoes. And what is the definition of mulatto according to them? Remember, they're saying that it's an African and a white European. So there's no African in these people. Why are they classifying them as mulattoes? That just means somebody who's a little lighter than what they're used to seeing in Africa. Including Thomas. In 1865, Thomas Sampson was re-elected a headman at Pamunkey. The same thing is true for the Langston family at Pamunkey, a family which contributed students to the Indian school at William and Mary College before the Revolutionary War. In 1830 and 1840, their descendants are classified as free colored, and in 1850 as mulattoes. See how it changes? Without exception. The same is true for all the prominent Pamunkey and Mataponi families, even including those of Rhoda Arnold and Molly Holt, two ladies from whom a visitor acquired some Indian words in 1844.
Who you are is what you were raised and what you believe in your heart and in your soul. It's not something that you take out of the closet and put on because it's the fashion.
A lot of it has to do with spirit. If the spirit's inside you, and you feel a certain way, then that's the people that you are. That's the people that you're going to be.
Another interesting case is afforded by the Nottoway tribe, a reservation group in Southern County, Virginia. In 1808, a partial census of the tribe identified, for example, Littleton Scholler, age 51, as an Indian, full-blood, with a white wife. In 1830 U.S. Census, however, Littleton's son, Billy, and Ned are listed as free people of color. All right, so his son, who has no African ancestry, right, because they're saying he's a full-blood dad, Indian, and a white mom or European, right? And they're calling his son a free people of color. All of the surviving full-blood Notaways are listed in the same manner. In 1844, an enumeration of free Negroes and mulattoes in Southampton County listed certain mulatto children, including Alex, Bob, Samuel, and Gideon Scholler, all children of a white mother. The Schollers do not appear to have had any African ancestry, but are regarded nonetheless as mulattoes. You see, they were calling them mulattoes without any African ancestry. Does this make sense to you? Most of the other Notaways with some African ancestry are classified as mulattoes or as free Negroes. Another case involves the Scott family, or Indians in Richmond, Virginia. William Scott was listed as an Indian in the tax rolls of the 1780s. By 1810, Billy Scott was called a free person of color, with 9 in his household. By 1850, the oldest William Scott in the area, age 49, was classified as an M in the census, as was his probable son. All other William Scotts were classified as either B or M. Remember, black or mulatto and Henrico County. Thus, although the term mulatto ceases to be used in U.S. censuses, the general tendency is to use the term Negro to include all Indian, black persons who earlier would have been categorized under the former term. So you heard that, right? So eventually all these people who were listed as M, mulatto, who were Indians, right? They had no African ancestry, we just read, right? They were being classified as mulatto. These same people eventually will become Negro or black. All right, that's what they're telling you. We can be reasonably certain, I would suggest, that in many parts of the country, white census takers would have counted as Negro virtually all Indians showing African ancestry, or what they thought of a Negro, right? Except in counties where the Indians openly resisted such a classification. Some Indians were like, nah, don't call me no African or Negro. Call me by my tribal name. It is interesting to know that in the most recent U.S. Census, 1980, right, when this book was written, I guess, persons of part Indian ancestry had to be very alert if they wished to be counted as an Indian. Census rules forbade a person being counted in more than one racial category, and no mixed status was allowed. Thus, a person who checked more than one box was to be counted only with the first category marked, and white came first, black second, and Indian third. In short, any person who checked both black and Indian would be counted as black only. And it says here in the book, from 1803 to the Civil War, all free people of color in Virginia were required to register. The register for Essex County has survived, all right? That record exists today. And in it, we find many Indian people listed, but none are called Indians. They're actually, listen to what they're called. Classifications given include black. All right, these are Indians who are being classified as black, dark brown, tawny, very dark mulatto, very dark mulatto, a dark mulatto, shade lighter than a dark mulatto, bright mulatto, very bright mulatto, and very bright mulatto, almost white. So you hear all these classifications. These are all Indians, different shades of color, right, of copper. One man, the son of a non-white father of an Indian extraction, judging from his family name, and a white mother, was described in 1844 as a color-bright mulatto, all right, with hair somewhat like a white person's. His brother, a son of the same white man, was described as a bright mulatto with long hair. No doubt the hair was being worn long because of an Indian identity, since this was common for Native Americans in Virginia through the 1890s at least. And just one more example from Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes. It says here, a similar situation existed in Tennessee. where the so-called Melungeon people, probably Saponi, Powhatan, of Hawkins, Granger, and nearby counties, were often classed as free, colored, and mulatto, but occasionally also as white. A white writer of 1890 asserted of these people, a great many declared them mulattoes, and based their belief upon the ground that at the close of the Civil War, Negroes and Melangians stood upon precisely the same social footing, free man of color, all. One official said that the Melangian isn't a nigger, and he isn't an Indian, and he isn't a white man. The author adds, in appearance they bear a striking resemblance to the Cherokees, and they are believed by the people around about to be a kind of half-breed Indian. Their complexion is reddish brown, totally unlike the mulatto. Here, of course, we sense that the writer of 1890 has a feeling that the term mulatto ought not to be applied to persons whose shade of brownness and probably other features do not resemble those of an African white hybrid. You hear that? This same confusion over the use of the term mulatto is exemplified by the status of a similar group of mixed Indian people in South Carolina, called variously brass ankles, red bones, yellow people, and so on, until recently. Although frequently classified as mulattoes in earlier census records, these people in the 1940s were being variously called mulattoes, yellow people, half niggers, and half Indians by the local whites. Some were being accepted as whites also, albeit with reluctance. The term musty or mestizo had reportedly disappeared from local usage. The Journal of Negro History by Carter G. Woodson, Volume 1. Says here in this book, ran away from his master, Eliezer Ting, or Eliezer, Esquire, at Dunstable. On the 26th of May, they passed a Negro man. Again, a Negro man, right? Remember that. Servant called Robin, almost of the complexion of an Indian. So he just said he's a Negro man, but he has the complexion of an Indian. You see this? Short, thick, square shoulder, the fellow, a very short neck and thick legs, about 28 years old. Talks good English, can read and write, and plays on the fiddle. He was born at Dunstable. Whoever will apprehend said Negro and secure him, again, whoever will apprehend said Negro who has the complexion of an Indian and secure him so that his master may have him again, or bring him to the warehouse of Messrs. Alford and Ting in Boston, shall have a reward of £10, all tenor and all reasonable charges. And this was published in the New York Gazette, revived in the Weekly Post, Boy, July 18, 1748. Again, a Negro servant runaway with a complexion of an Indian. And we've been talking about all this classification and showing you all these census records, right? Just want to show you things we've probably never noticed, but now that we have a clear perspective of certain things, we can see what they were trying to say in these, what we're going to read, these runaway slave advertisements, right? It says, advertisements for runaway slaves occasionally contain information which sheds light on racial terms. The term mulatto is sometimes used for persons whose background cannot be documented, but very often American ancestry is specifically indicated. They're saying that these are American natives or aboriginals who they're talking about when they're referencing a mulatto. In the following examples from Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, references to Americans held as slaves will also be included, along with those specifically using the term mulatto. We shall begin with Virginia. 1737, 1738. Amos, a mulatto man, slave. He is about 6 feet high with broad face and shoulders, has bushy hair, and is a native of this country, although he has the countenance of a Madagascar. You hear that? Alright, so a mulatto man slave, a native of this country. Right? Remember, mulatto, they're just talking about American ancestry or an Aboriginal. And just so you can see that these advertisements are not fake, just want to show you some real ones. So it says here, $10 reward. Ran away from her subscriber on the 15th instant. A Negro girl named Nelly, 16 years of age. Stout built, rather short, yellow complexion. Again, yellow complexion. Who was called the yellow man? Yellow complexion, long Indian hair, curled before hold but rather down looking. Alright? Amy Cheston. This is from 1809. 1752, runaway from Somerset County, Maryland, a tall, slim mulatto man, slave. Looks much like unto an Indian, and will endeavor to pass for such. Had with him a stripped Indian match coat. You hear that? So they're saying that this mulatto man looks much like unto an Indian. He looks very much like an Indian, and will try to pass like one. He is one. Hear what he's saying? Because if they classify him as an Indian, then he wouldn't be able to enslave him. But as a Negro, since that became almost synonymous with slave, then if you see him as a Negro, then it's okay for him to enslave him, and he has the right to write in his mind, right? 1772, ran away, a dark mulatto man, slave named Manuel, about 5 feet 9 inches high, 30 years of age, and has bushy hair. He has been used to go by water, has much the appearance of a sailor, and is a tolerably good shoemaker. He was born in the Spanish West Indies, speaks Spanish fluently. Butte County, North Carolina, March 20, 1775. Runaway from the subscriber, a slave of the Indian breed, a tall, slim-made fellow with long, straight black hair, about 23 years of age. 1772. Ran away from Cumberland, a mulatto man named Jim, who is a slave of the name of Cheshire, and very likely will call himself James Cheshire or Shink. He has long black hair resembling an Indian's. Okay. 1773. Ran away with a Negro fellow named Fortune, a wench named Aminta. Has much the look of an Indian, and is so. Her mother, having been brought from Spanish Main to Rhode Island, has long black hair. They were brought from Rhode Island. Run away from the subscriber in Albemarle, a mulatto slave called Sandy. Again, a mulatto slave called Sandy. We're just talking about American natives. About 35 years of age, his stature is rather low, inclining to corpulence, and his complexion light. Again, his complexion light. He is a shoemaker by trade, in which he uses his left hand principally. Alright, and it goes on. 1773. Ran away from Amelia County, a Negro man of the name of Tom, of yellowish complexion, much the appearance of an Indian. His hair is of different kind from that of a Negro's, rather more of the Indian's, but partaken of both, with tuft short. He frequently ties behind. You hear what he's describing? And it says here on the top, very expensive, says $100 reward. Ran away from the subscriber on the 16th instant, a Negro boy named George Stewart, a slave for life. The said boy is about 20 years of age, 5 feet in height, of a bright mulatto color. We know what that means. We've already read about how they were classifying a lot of the Indians as bright mulatto color. Had on when he left a pair of blue mixed pants, black foot coat, black hat, and coarse shoes. On the bottom it says run away from the subscriber at New Richmond in the district of Gaspee on Saturday the 29th of April. A Negro man named Jack or Isaac, who calls himself Charles sometimes. He is about 5 feet 8 or 10 inches high, speaks good English and some broken French and Mi'kmaq. He speaks Mi'kmaq. He probably is a Mi'kmaq. 1753. Ran away a mulatto girl of the Indian breed named Nancy, about 18 or 19 years old, has long black hair. Again, ran away a mulatto girl of the Indian breed named Nancy, has long black hair. 1761, ran away, a mulatto wench named Betty. She is short and square, made, has short Indian hair, is well known in Charlestown. Says here, run away from the subscriber. The beginning of October, last, a lusty, well-set mulatto man named Solomon, Hebrew name, Haynes, about 5 feet to 10 inches high, a very crafty fellow, intends to change his name, understands the water very well, and is exceedingly good pilot. 1771. Ran away a young mulatto or musty wench named Mary, well known at Ashley River, where she formerly lived, and was enticed away by her mother, an Indian wench named Sarah, who lives at Stono Plantation. 1773. Ran away a Negro man named Nero, and a mulatto or half-Indian man named Frank, well made, about 19 or 20 years old. So you see how many Indians are listed as slaves. $85 reward. Run away since the 29th of January, 1851, the Negro Antoine, alias William, a well-known journeyman, baker, about 40 years of age, 5 feet 7 or 8 inches tall, yellowish complexion. Again, yellowish complexion. Who is the yellow man in history, right? Who are they calling the yellow man? All right. Strong constitution, large head, big nose, thick lips, large flat feet, a large burn scar on the chest, a piece of one ear bitten off, and speaking English and French. 1777. Ran away from Blandfield in Essex County, Negro man named John Topopens, 40 years of age, of a yellowish complexion, a good countenance. Topopens people were later regarded as Indians in neighboring King Williams County. 1777. Ran away from Amelia County a large young mulatto fellow named Sam, of the Indian breed. I expect he is in James City County, as he has a mother who lives there. $5 reward. Ran away from the subscriber on Tuesday last, a Negro fellow named Sam, of a yellow complexion. So a Negro of a yellow complexion, about 5 feet 10 or 11 inches high, and about 45 years of age. 1785. Ran away from Dewey County, one Joe. He is a dark mulatto. He has bushy head of hair and is of an Indian breed. Again, a dark mulatto who has bushy hair, is of the Indian breed, is an excellent sawyer, plays on the violin, changed his name to Peter Tony. 1790. Ran away from Southampton a lad about 18 or 19 years of age called Ben Whitehead. He is of the Indian breed and almost white, has coarse straight hair of a dark brown color and black eyes, is a carpenter, and he can read. 1738. Ran away an Indian man named Peter. Right away, right? An Indian man named Peter. 1740. Deserted from the slope, Mayflower, a tall, rough Spanish Indian fellow, also a well-set Spanish Negro fellow. And lastly, I just want to show you something I haven't mentioned in this video, but it's something that it was very common in these times, and is that white Europeans, the only way they were able to come over here was if they did a contract, an indentured servant contract for 7 years. They weren't just getting free rights over to America. So when they were coming over here, they were servants, or as you want to call them, slaves, alongside the so-called Negro for many years until their contract was over. So just so you can see what I'm talking about, it says here, run away from the subscriber, living in Kingstown, Queen Anne's County, Maryland, an Irish servant woman. Look at how her color of her skin. An Irish servant woman, indentured servant, named Martha Carr, about 24 years of age, of flesh complexion. Again, yes, white people were slaves slash indentured servants as well, along with the American Indian and so-called Negro. You have to realign your perspective of what you think history and the past is, especially when it comes to race, classification, indentured servants, and slavery. Alright, family, this is going to be the end of part 6. Hope you're liking this series, and please continue to part 7. We're not done, fam. We're going to break this down. I got a lot of information coming. Alright, so continue to part 7. Shabbat Shalom. Hawa bless.